Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. David Grush, the whistleblower and former Air Force official who testified before the House Oversight Committee recently, relating to his assertions that there is a crash retrieval program and reverse engineering program in relation to recovered extraterrestrial or slash non-human intelligence created craft, was recently interviewed this past week by BBC Radio 4, and one of the questions that the interviewer asked him was, is there other countries involved? Basically, he said, surely other governments around the world might have had a similar experience. So the idea that it's a solely American thing is surely fanciful. And Grush responded, he said, it does cross into other countries and other allies to include the Five Eyes Alliance, which is something I've already stated publicly. The media reporting bias and societal transparency is a little different in the United States. That's the crux, what most people hear, but it's certainly not an American issue. Well, the Liberation Times reporter Christopher Sharp actually contacted the UK's Ministry of Defence on this, asked if they know of anything with regards to recovered technology from non-human intelligence, and they said that they do not. They denied it. They deny this, and just so you know, that this Five Eyes intelligence, that was something that was established in 1941, and it comprises 5 different countries: New Zealand, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and of course the United States. But the Ministry of Defense spokesperson who was speaking with Christopher Sharp said no, they have no knowledge of any UFO retrieval programs. That might be the case. However, there is an issue here because at the same time they don't talk about anything related to UAP. That's classified information. So how could you know that they're telling the truth here? I just don't see how anyone could know that. But anyway, I'm going to go through some of this article here that Christopher Sharp wrote. It says here, the UK's Ministry of Defence has told Liberation Times that they have no knowledge of crash retrieval programs relating to material of unexplained origin. The Ministry of Defence denial comes after allegations of potential Five Eyes Alliance involvement in crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs relating to materials and craft of non-human intelligence. I'm going to skip forward here a little bit. It says, speaking last night on the UK's BBC Radio 4, and when asked whether this alleged cover-up extends to other nations, Grush responded, it does cross into other countries and other allies to include the Five Eyes Alliance, which is something I've already stated publicly. And he added that it's certainly not an American issue. But in response, the Ministry of Defense spokesperson said the Ministry of Defense is not aware of any salvage operations with materials of unexplained origin. Notably, Liberation Times had asked whether the UK had any knowledge of crash retrieval programs relating to craft and materials of non-human origin, not unexplained origin as referenced by the MoD. While not as attention-grabbing as the U.S. government's statements regarding UAP, this statement is still noteworthy, especially when considering the MoD's usual templated responses that downplay the government's interest in the matter. And then Nick Pope had an interesting comment here. Nick Pope, of course, he was a civil servant who investigated unidentified anomalous phenomena with the Ministry of Defense back in the 1990s. And he said, while this straightforward denial might seem unremarkable, it's significant because the Ministry of Defense has previously neither confirmed nor denied that it's in touch with Arrow, and fell back on the policy of not commenting on intelligence matters when asked about UK participation in the recent Five Eyes Forum on UAP, despite Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick having let the cat out of the bag by stating the forum had been held. Yeah, recently there was a forum with the Five Eyes Alliance, which includes all these countries, including the UK, and Sean Kirkpatrick confirmed this, and now they're saying... and they're not even saying the Ministry of Defense will not comment on whether they were there or not. But Pope does make an interesting observation here, which I do agree with. He says, I strongly suspect the denial is truthful, not least because when I was handling the UAP issue for the Ministry of Defense in the 90s, I saw no hint of the existence of such a program. If it exists, I believe any U.S. crash retrieval program has a no foreign caveat, and no foreign means not releasable to foreign nationals. I actually agree with Nick Pope on this. I mean, it's possible that there are certain aspects, if there's crash retrievals that happen in the United States or some other countries, but none of them ever happened in the UK. I don't think that information, it might not be shared with the United Kingdom, the Ministry of Defense. I mean, there's probably some things that are not shared. But anyway, I'm going to skip forward on this. It says in May 2023, Sean Kirkpatrick, who leads the U.S. government's UAP office known as the Arrow, disclosed having conducted a meeting with the Five Eyes nations to discuss the subject of UAP. When asked by Liberation Times whether a UK representative was present, a UK Ministry of Defense spokesperson declined to comment. That is because the UK government's policy is not to speak on intelligence topics such as this. So that's the conundrum here. I'm just going to stop there for a second. That's the conundrum that I see here. Because if they can't comment on things like discussions on UAP, then how could you know whether or not they're being truthful when they say, "Oh yeah, we deny any of this crash retrieval stuff. We know nothing about it." How could you believe it if they're also saying out of the other side of their mouth that that we can't comment on this on intelligence topics like this? So I don't see how you could believe them. I mean, it could be true, like Nick Pope says, that they're not aware of it, that they've never been read in on it, that anyone from the UK has not been read in on it. That could be true. We don't know. But it could be that they have been read in on it too. We just don't know. But to me, it's like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth here, because in one respect, they're saying, yeah, we have no knowledge of any crash retrieval program, but in the same respect, they're saying, well, we don't comment on things related to that, to intelligence issues related to UAP. I'll continue this here. It says in June 2023, Liberation Times reported on a bombshell letter by Canadian politician Larry Maguire urging Canada's Ministry of National Defence to request a briefing which could verify that Canada and other Five Eyes members are involved in a secretive program concerning the recovery and exploitation of materials originating from UAP. And so I just want to stop there. So yeah, this Maguire was concerned that, hey, if we don't get ahead of this right now and just come out with the truth, we're going to look terrible later on. Anyway, I'll finish up this article. It says, such allegations have sparked a significant debate, raising profound concerns about democratic oversight and government transparency in Five Eyes nations if the claims made by Grush and Maguire prove to be accurate. Well, yeah, there are going to be lots of profound concerns if they do prove to be accurate, and I do think they are going to be. I think they are accurate. There is a reverse engineering program. There is a crash retrieval program. I mean, it's the research throughout the decades shows that there's been other whistleblowers before Grush. It's not just Grush. There's been numerous people over the decades, starting back with the Roswell case. Right? You had if you look at it at that situation, you had Jesse Marcel Sr. I mean, wasn't he blowing the whistle in the late 1970s? I mean, he was the top intelligence official in Roswell at the Roswell Army Air Base back in 1947, and he said it was a cover-up. He said that it was no weather balloon, and that the thing that they got there was that they found there that was crashed there could not have been of this earth. And there were other people in addition, numerous other people in addition to Marcel, military people that have talked about this, that were blowing the whistle on it. Some publicly, some on their deathbeds, and then it just goes on, right? Throughout the decades, there's been other people that have stepped forward in addition to the Roswell witnesses. So it's not just Grush. The difference between Grush and all these others that came before him is that he actually testified before a House Oversight Committee, under oath. That's something that never happened before. But anyway, what's another interesting opinion piece that was written by Marik von Rennenkampff, and this guy, he puts out some good opinion pieces. I've talked about some of his stories before. He is a former analyst with the United States Department of State's Bureau of International Security and Nonproliferation, and he was also an appointee under the Obama administration to the United States Department of Defense. And he has an opinion piece in The Hill that was published on Friday, and I want to go through this. And the headline reads, "A monumental UFO scandal is looming." And let me tell you, this is one of the best pieces I've seen recently that really lays out what's going on here. This is, I mean, this article here, this opinion piece eliminates all the noise you're hearing from different politicians, like, for instance, the Mike Turner, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, who's basically poo-pooing everything recently, going on TV and saying he just can't believe there could be a cover-up. Like, you heard all this noise, this noise to try to, put it back in the Pandora's box. It's just not going to work out, though, because when you see something like this, there are people out there who are able to push the noise aside and get right to the core of what's happening here, what is going on with Grush. And this article here is excellent, I think. It's one of the best ones to come out since the Grush, since Grush appeared before the House Oversight Committee. But anyway, we're going to go through this. It says here, the decades-long saga of unidentified flying objects is barreling headlong toward one of two stunning conclusions. Either the United States government has mounted an extraordinary decades-long cover-up of UFO retrieval and reverse engineering activities, or elements of the defense and intelligence establishment are engaging in a staggeringly brazen psychological disinformation campaign. There you go. It's either one or the other. It's either A or B, right? It has to be. What else? What other choice is there? There is no other choice. He's right. That's all there is here. I mean, so either there's this unbelievable disinformation campaign, people just lying, people like Rush sitting before Congress and telling lies, right? Or there is a reverse engineering program, right? There is a crash retrieval program. Yes, that's what there is. It's actually choice A here. That's what it is. But anyway, let's go through it here. It says either possibility would have profound implications for democracy, the role of government, and perhaps also humanity's place in the cosmos. For these reasons, it is imperative that Congress and federal law enforcement agencies devote significant resources to investigating a series of remarkable UFO-related developments. Importantly, a third explanation for recent events that dozens of high-level, highly cleared officials have come to believe enduring UFO myths, rumors, and speculation as fact appears increasingly unlikely. Yeah, I don't know. There is no, that third option's, that's impossible. That's impossible. There's just no way. Based on the information, and the information presented here by Marik it's very clear. I mean, what's happening here, that it has nothing to do with a whole bunch of people just being crazy and conspiracy theorists within government that are saying these kind of things. That's not happening. That's not what it is. It couldn't be that. Anyway, it says here, in June, U.S. Air Force veteran and former intelligence official David Grush alleged that elements of the United States government have secretly and illegally overseen a decades-long UFO retrieval and reverse engineering effort. Two defense officials corroborated the broad contours of Grush's stunning claims. Grush has stated that he provided a wealth of highly classified evidence to the powerful internal investigative agencies overseeing the Department of Defense and the U.S. intelligence community, but he has not presented any such evidence publicly. However, the officials and lawmakers who have reviewed Grush's classified evidence are taking his extraordinary allegations seriously. Well, one of the reasons they're taking it seriously, it's not because they know that they've seen, some of these people in Congress have seen other stuff in secure locations that the public has no knowledge of yet. That's one of the reasons. But anyway, continuing. It says the Inspector General of the intelligence community deemed Grush's allegations that UFO-related information was inappropriately concealed from Congress credible and urgent. Senate Intelligence Vice Chairman Marco Rubio confirmed the Inspector General's finding. Charles McCullough III, the intelligence community's first inspector general and now an attorney in private practice, represents Grush and sat directly behind him during a July 26th congressional hearing. It is extremely unlikely that such a high-profile lawyer and former top federal official would represent anyone making the kinds of extraordinary claims that Grush is without robust evidence. So obviously, yeah, again, you have to look at what's happening here. I mean, the fact that someone like McCullough, the intelligence community's first inspector general, is now representing Grush, he obviously knows something. He obviously believes completely in Grush. Because there is something going on. It has been getting covered up for all these decades. Despite what people in the mainstream media or debunkers will tell you, will have you think otherwise. Continuing here, it says, when asked during the July 26th congressional hearing whether he believes the U.S. government possesses UFOs, Grush stated, absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years. Grush continued, I know the exact locations of retrieved UFOs, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General and to the Congressional Intelligence Committees. Grush also said, I actually had the people with the first-hand knowledge provide a protected disclosure to the Inspector General. So that's something else that seems to be getting lost here in translation. The fact that it's not just Grush who was talking to the Inspector General. It's the people who were telling him directly of these programs. The people who actually showed him documentation, photos, and videos. So the Inspector General has all this information, and some people in Congress have it now too. It is not all of it, though. Some people in Congress have some of it, apparently. They've interviewed certain people. We just don't know enough yet to know exactly. But anyway, continuing here, it says, it is unlikely that Grush, speaking to Congress under oath, would perjure himself so brazenly over such specific falsifiable facts, particularly with his high-profile attorney sitting directly behind him. Yeah, let's just stop there again. Yeah. Somebody's not going to do that. Somebody with Grush's pedigree isn't going to do something like that, and someone with Grush's pedigree isn't going to have a lawyer like this guy, a former Inspector General representing him. This is real, folks. This is real. This is one of the best opinion pieces I've seen on this so far since the hearings. Anyway, continuing. To that end, it is safe to assume that more than 36 individuals did indeed tell Grush of a decades-long UFO retrieval and reverse engineering program, and that those with first-hand knowledge provided corroborating information to the intelligence community Inspector General. See, this is the part here. A lot of people are, like for instance, Bill Shatner showing up on TV. He doesn't even know about this. He just makes statements. Oh, he thinks the whole thing's ridiculous. They act like it's just one guy. People out there in the mainstream, they think it's just this one guy, Grush. No. There's a whole bunch of people. There's a whole bunch of people talking to the Inspector General. It's not just Grush. We don't know them yet. We don't know who they are yet. The wheels are coming off this wagon pretty soon. That's what's going on here, folks. Anyway, continuing here, it says, one theory for Grush's allegations is that the individuals he interviewed became convinced that decades-old myths and rumors of ultra-secret UFO retrieval and reverse engineering programs are true. However, given the significant penalties for making false statements to an Inspector General, it is extremely unlikely that multiple high-level, highly cleared officials would falsely claim to have first-hand knowledge of myths and rumors. See, there you go again. That doesn't make any sense. How could all these people that have been secretly telling, basically corroborating Grush's story with the Inspector General all be basically had fallen for some old myths and rumors and saying, and then try to present it as fact? That's not what's going on here. Grush said he not only talked to them, they actually provided corroborating documentation. But again, this stuff is not being really picked up by a lot of people in the mainstream media. But thankfully, The Hill is a more of a mainstream publication, and luckily they do have people like Marik von Rennenkampff providing opinion pieces like this, because this is definitely helpful. It should be helpful for a lot of people. Continuing here, it says, Rubio and Representative Mike Gallagher, a member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, have stated that multiple individuals with first-hand knowledge of Grush's allegations have spoken to Congress. Rubio put it succinctly, either what Grush is saying is partially true or entirely true, or we have some really smart, educated people with high clearances and very important positions in our government who are crazy and are leading us on a goose chase. Option 2 is not happening. That's not the case here. There's not a whole bunch of people who are crazy who are talking with Congress and the Inspector General. That's just not the case. The chances of that, it's just impossible. But what is true, what Grush is saying is either partially true or entirely true. I would probably say what he's saying is, I would probably go with partially true. There's probably some aspects. There might be some little things here that he might have heard or been presented information with that might not be completely true, but I believe that it's at the very least partially true. There maybe 90% of it's true, but the other 10% it's not clear, because again, he doesn't have everything, right? He hasn't seen everything, but he has seen enough, right? He has seen enough. Continuing here, it says, most of these people, according to Rubio continued, have held very high clearances and high positions within our government. So you ask yourself, what incentive would so many people with that kind of qualifications, these are serious people, have to come forward and make something up? Exactly, Marco, exactly. Continuing here, that this leaves two extraordinary possibilities: that Grush is correct, and elements within and outside of the U.S. government. The outside part would be, of course, the weapons manufacturers of the U.S. government oversee a decades-old UFO retrieval and reverse engineering effort, a profound paradigm-shifting development, or, to quote Grush, multiple esteemed and credentialed current and former government officials with a long-standing track record of legitimacy and service to this country are engaging in a brazen disinformation campaign. So choice number 2 is that's going to be eliminated. That means all those people are going to end up in jail apparently after this is all said and done. That's what's going to happen. If that's true, if the second option is true, all these people that are testifying, telling the Inspector General, passing on information to the Inspector General, to some members of Congress, some of them talking to Congress. That means when all this is said and done, that some people are going to be in trouble, and that's just not going to happen. That's because choice number 1. Option number 1 is what's been going on, as a lot of us already knew for many, many decades. Continuing here, it says, for their part, key lawmakers are taking Grush's allegations extremely seriously. They are taking it seriously, and it's a bipartisan effort, too, because obviously people in Congress have been made aware of some things that we don't know yet. The public just doesn't know yet, and that's why they are moving the way they are doing, the way they are. Continuing here, it says, on July 13th, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer introduced a measure that asserts eminent domain over any and all recovered technologies of unknown origin that may be controlled by private persons or entities. It also defines and contains 24 references to non-human intelligence, a term used frequently by Grush to denote the uncertain origin of highly advanced technology allegedly retrieved. Such efforts are referred to as a legacy program in Schumer's legislation. See, Schumer, he's figured some things out, too. And the Senate's going to be having its own hearings coming up soon. And we can't wait to hear that. I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see some more whistleblowers, too, in addition to Grush. That's when jaws are going to start dropping a little bit more in the mainstream, when more people are start stepping forward and telling what they know. It's time to end this whole cover-up already, for God's sakes. Anyway, continuing. In an in-depth News Nation interview, Grush also alleged that non-human remains have been recovered from UFOs. Schumer's legislation requires that any biological evidence of non-human intelligence held by private companies be turned over to the federal government in the interest of the public good. On June 22nd, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, along with Rubio and 2 other Republican senators, introduced legislation that would immediately halt funding for precisely the types of illegal, unreported programs described by Grush. The bill also instructs individuals with knowledge of such UFO-related activities to disclose all relevant information. It grants legal immunity if the information is reported appropriately within a defined time frame. Yes, that's very important. A very important bill. It's giving these people a chance. These people who are orchestrating this cover-up, who are obviously, I mean, some of these people, this cover-up we know it started at some point in the long past, and the people who started it are all dead. Okay, that's the truth of this, right? It's what's going on here is that other people have been grandfathered in, obviously. So it needs to come to an end. It's time to bring this ridiculous cover-up to an end. Anyway, continuing here, it says, meanwhile, Representative Tim Burchett and Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who spearheaded the 26 July congressional hearing featuring Grush and 2 former naval aviators, are leading a bipartisan effort to establish a select committee to investigate Grush's allegations. As Rubio stated, if Grush is correct, there's a group of people who believe that they possess something that they don't need to share with anybody, including elected officials who they view as temporary employees of the government. Rubio likens such a dynamic to an internal military complex that's their own government and is accountable to no one, which ultimately would be a huge problem if it's even partially true. It's funny. I've talked about this over the last 2 years. I mean, I've said this on my podcast. It's amazing, because based on the research that I've done over the years on my own, reading books by Richard Dolan and Stanton Friedman, Timothy Good, right? There's all these great books, investigative books about the military and how they've been handling this over the decades, and you come to this conclusion, right? This conclusion. These guys were right. Their research is true. I mean, all this. You come to these conclusions after you research this, and here it's the fruit. You see the fruit. It's bearing fruit here. Because Rubio's basically saying, to me, it seems like it's like a government within on its own. It has no, there's nothing to control it. It's its own little entity. And that's what's going on here. Okay, we'll just finish off this article. It says, although such revelations would shake public trust in government to its core, that trust might be rebuilt upon the paradigm-shifting knowledge that humanity is not alone in the cosmos. Yeah, a lot of people are concerned about that. If this turns out to be true, then the people aren't going to trust the government. Well, guess what? And this will also provide truth of why you shouldn't trust the government. But you know what? I think we'll get over that. The people covering this up, what they need to do, they need to do something themselves. They should be the ones making a move instead of having Congress continuing to go through this. The secret control group needs to do something itself. Make a move now, right? Come forward. Just tell the truth. Why were you covering this up? Come up with a good reason. You could say, well, we weren't sure what these aliens are up to. You could say something to that effect. That's why we've been studying this secretly. We're concerned about those aspects of it. But now the heat's on. I guess we got to finally come clean about it. Come up with some excuse, but do it yourself rather than have Congress continue with this. I think it would be better for the control group to actually come clean on its own merit rather than drag the American people and the rest of the world through this process that's probably going to take years. And then when it finally is uncovered, if we are able to pry it open, if Congress is able to pry the lid off this, it's going to look a lot worse for you guys. So the secret control group really needs to take a good long look in the mirror, right, and make a move itself. Right? Come clean on their own rather than make us wait for how many more years until we finally get to the bottom of this. Because there is a cover-up. There most certainly is. There's so many people that have been affected by this throughout the years because of the cover-up, because of the stigmatization program that was instituted back in the 1950s and continues to this day. Right, so many people have been affected by this in a negative way. It needs to come to an end. We need the scientific community needs to be brought in on this. They need to be provided information. The world needs to study this. We need to be talking about it. Like, we're not the only ones in this universe. There's something else here. Whether they're here for good reasons, bad reasons, or a combination of both, we need to understand. The world needs to understand that, right? This needs to be something that's taught in schools. It's time to get over this hump. It's time to end the secrecy. And I think that instead of having to do all these hearings and for who knows how long this is going to take, and investigations are going to come at some point, it's time for the secret control group to say, you know what, we can't do this anymore. Okay? Oh yeah, here's the truth. Just end it. End this lie. Because it's obvious to so many of us out there. It's so obvious. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Until next time.